Well, hello everybody and welcome back. I'm Francesco, brand manager for the Distant World franchise. Today we're going to spend about half an hour chatting with Eric Routins, executive producer of Distant Worlds 2. So, you know guys, the game has been in beta testing for a while now, actually a couple of months. And the Codeforce team is working really hard on it, but we don't have yet a release date. It's going to be soon, so make sure you follow our prod page on Steam and on our site to stay up to date. And today, for the first time after the official announcement, we're going to see the game in action. So without further ado, let's connect with Eric. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Francesco. How are you?
Hello. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Likewise.
So last time we were able to see some game sequences about Distant World 2, but we stopped when we first met the pirates. So any chance to see more action today?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, we're going to show a few things today. We're playing as the Mortallon. Last time we played as the Akhdarians. The Mortallon are quite a different faction. They're very warrior-focused, very feudal. So we'll be using the feudalism government and exploring some of the more kinetic solutions to problems in the Distant Worlds 2 galaxy. We're going to start by giving you a quick peek at what the galaxy looks like now, and then we'll pick up where we left off. Last time we stopped once the pirates showed up. This time we're going to show you how we go about dealing with the pirates once they have showed up. I'll talk you through that, and we also had some requests to take a deeper look at research and ship design, and there will be a few other sneak peeks as well.
That's great. So, Bruno, we can begin with the presentation. All right.
All right, so this first clip is going to be a zoom in, zoom out. We're looking at the Mortallon homeworld here, and we're zooming out through their system. And now you'll get a chance to see that we've done a little more with the galaxy graphics. So you can see better the nebulas that make up some of the galactic terrain. There are different types of them, as well as some of the other galactic structures. And we'll go back in here, and you can see all the mining stations and the spaceport and the research station around our homeworld. And that's just our first quick sneak peek, and then we're going to move on from there.
All right.
So here we are. So this is picking up where we left off with pirates. So we've met our first pirate faction, and they're actually offering us a protection treaty. Now, pirates have an interesting backstory in Distant Worlds, which I won't reveal fully now, but one of the options you have with them is effectively you can pay them, and they will not break as much of your stuff. They'll leave you alone in exchange for some tribute. Being that we're the Mortallon, we decided not to take them up on that offer. Instead, we're going to fight. So we're going to take a look as the Mortallon here. The first thing we see, and this is typical for pirates, is they decide to set up camp around our one and only fuel station. Now we need Kazlon as a fuel to be able to power our hyperspace drives and our weapons to their full capability. So this is a pretty strategic location for us. And the pirates also love to have Kazlon. So we're taking a quick look through here. This is one of our updated ship design screens too. We're looking at the status of this particular mining station rather than making the design itself. And we're going to take a look at the pirate ship as well and see what kind of components it has and what their status is. You can have active, damaged, disabled, destroyed components in your design base on the left. And so one of the things you have to do when you're dealing with pirates is you have to obviously start building up a fleet to be able to stop the pirates doing what they want with your stations and your economy. You're going to learn how to protect the various parts of your economy. The most important parts of your economy are your resources, and those consist of, and we're looking through some of them here, you've got your construction resources, which you need in order to build things. They come in different shapes and sizes and rarities. Some of them you'll have more sources of, some you'll have fewer. We're very early in the game here, so we really don't have many sources. You're also going to have fuel, which is critical, and then you'll have a lot of luxury resources. So what we're doing here is we're queuing up additional locations for new mining stations to help build in some extra sources for our construction resources to make sure we can keep up with the need to build things. We're taking our one spy, we're assigning our spy to try to steal the territory map of these pirates so that we can find out where their hidden home base is. And we're skipping ahead a little bit here, and now we've got our home spaceport, and it's being raided by the pirates. They'll come by and they will attack your stations. Sometimes they'll destroy them. Sometimes they'll board them and steal stuff. It could be some of your resources, some of your credits, some of your research. And here at this point, we've built up some escorts. We've got them defending our home spaceport, and you can see them trying to chase off the pirate. But they'll keep this up, and this type of harassment also makes it harder for your civilian ships to operate. So what you need to do is you need to build up your capability to expand beyond your system, to establish multiple sources of construction fuel supplies, so the pirates, which are very much split up between multiple different competing factions, they're not a big monolith, so they can't really keep up with you. At the same time, you're going to want to improve your defensive and your offensive tech in order to be able to better fight them off sooner before they can mount their effective raids. And obviously, the more that you annoy them, the more they're going to try to push you back to your system, push you back even to your home planet, and even bottle you up there if they can. In this case, we're doing pretty well. And what happens here is a long series of skirmishes morphing into a full-on war. We eventually meet other pirate factions, but what we'll see pretty soon here is that we're going to take out this pirate faction. And one of the things we're doing here, I'm showing you, is the fleet templates, where I took a look and decided, okay, I want to change what the composition of my fleets are. And the templates are a handy way to do that. You can manually control what the composition of your fleet is, but by using these templates and assigning them the ship roles you want in the type of fleet, so attacking fleets, defending fleets, invading fleets, raiding fleets, each of them have a different general purpose in the game. You can set the tactical settings on a fleet level of how the ships respond. You can say what types of ships you want in them. And then when you make a new fleet, you can just say, use this template and fill it out. And if it takes losses, again, fill it back out to this template.
Great.
And we'll make use of that. I'll show a bit more of that later. And a similar thing, which I'll show shortly here, is that you also have army templates. And army templates, which are not something we had in Distant Worlds 1, also allow you to have a little bit more control over the basic composition of what types of armies you have at different types of colonies and locations and for your invasion fleets. So we're going to skip ahead a little further here. And at this point, we've discovered this is the original pirate faction and that we first met. And we discovered the location of their secret base. And we've built up a fleet now that's more than strong enough to take this out. We're looking at the design for that particular pirate base at this point. And so we've sent this fleet to attack them. And I'm looking at, this is basically an enemy target screen here, where you can queue the attacks on any enemy targets that you found. So for example, boom, right there, I just told our assistant AI, effectively, our digital viceroy, to send a fleet over to attack this particular base. And we have a large fleet that's got about 4 or 5 times the firepower of this base that is heading over there now. So we're going to watch that one warp in, and once it warps in, it's going to take out this pirate base relatively quickly. And you'll often find these bases. Here are the first ships coming in. So you'll often find these pirate bases. Yeah, I'm slowing it down a little now so we can watch a little better. You'll often find these pirate bases in out-of-the-way locations or around planets that have good resources, often gas giants that have fuel. It's a good place where pirates like to build their base for obvious reasons. So we've got a bunch of frigates now, Mortal frigates, attacking this particular pirate base. We'll have a few more come in, and I'm watching the pirate base in the bottom left. Okay, we've taken down its shields, we've taken down its armor. We're now hitting its internal components and its hull. So it's not going to be long as we watch the damage accumulate. Also, you can see some of it accumulating on the ship model for the base itself. It's not going to be long. Here's the rest of our fleet just arrived, and the pirate base is gone. And one of the things that can happen in this case is if you destroyed the faction, the remnants, in this case, one ship was left alive that wasn't around and that we hadn't destroyed earlier, and they decided to join us. So we now have that pirate ship joining our faction.
Well, that's great. However, as far as I know, space pirates will not be the only, let's call it, special faction in the game. Can you tell us something more about the Independents?
Yeah, let's take a quick look at the Independents. So one of the other things you'll run into are independent worlds. And these are worlds, and here we're meeting a first one. A lone trader has showed up. So a trading ship, a freighter that is not one of ours. It's not a pirate. It's not something we've met before. We meet them, And they start trading with us, and they tell us, oh, by the way, we come from this world, and they introduce us to them in effect. So we're taking a quick look at who these guys are, what their design is, and then you'll see shortly, here's a message where they tell us of a nearby colony, which is the one that they came from. And we'll go take a look at that colony. So there are two ways to deal with independence, primarily. One is diplomacy. Now, they basically represent more minor planets that had never succeeded in pushing out. They were effectively suppressed by the pirates. So they have sort of an understanding. They trade with the pirates, they'll trade with us. So the first method, which we're doing here, is diplomacy. We're giving them some gifts, and we're getting trade treaties. There are 3 levels of trade, restricted, limited, and free. And as we progress them diplomatically through those levels, and as the long-term trust builds up, both from the gifts we've given them and the long-term trade, then they'll eventually be willing to allow us to send a colony ship and have them join our empire. But as the Mortallon, we're going to focus most of this on this other method, where we just made an invasion fleet. So we ran out of patience, and we got tired of giving them money. And so we took our troop transports, loaded them up with troops. I'm now going through the settings on this new invasion fleet that I created, making sure it's set to my liking. And you'll see in the top right here, there's the location on the galaxy map of that particular independent world that we were just having diplomacy with. And you can see in the middle here, we've got the location of our fleet. And so as soon as I'm done setting the different parameters to get them ready for the invasion, I'm trying to keep them in a relatively tight formation, making sure they all arrive at once. I don't want the troops to be dropped piecemeal. I've got them all heading now towards the independence system, these Ygdarian independents. And here's their system. And I'm doing something a little bit sneaky here, because since I did establish trade with them, I did some diplomacy. I'm actually going to refuel my invasion fleet at their planet from their fuel stores first, make sure I'm all good and topped off, and then I'm going to go ahead and attack them. Now, I'm not going to show, we're not going to show this time, and I'm sorry in advance, we're not going to show the actual invasion. It did happen. It went well for us, but we're not quite ready to show the ground combat yet. That'll be next time, I expect. But you see the troop transport fleet here gathering, and I'm going to be giving them the attack order, and we'll watch them make their approach run. And just at the point where you would see the assault pods coming out from the troop transports, we'll stop this clip. But so you have your choice of how to deal with independence. Either way will bring them into your empire. Obviously, they'll be a little less happy if you bring them in through conquest. They might rebel against you, but if you bring them in diplomatically, they're happier, but it can also take a little more time and investment.
All right. And Mortallon seems like a really fun race to play with. Now, let's stop for a moment and focus on the research tree. There is a huge variety of research projects that can be developed. Isn't there, Eric?
Yeah, and we had some questions about research last time, so I decided to give a little more in-depth tour this time. So in this particular clip, we're going to start out using the research interface in the top left here, and we're looking at our different research stations, each of which is generally built on a location that gives us a bonus in a particular area of research. And we're looking through our total research bonuses now. And you can see each bonus is broken out by the sources that contribute to that bonus. Now, these bonuses speed up research in that category. Each part of the tree belongs to a different category, but they also meet certain thresholds. So right now you have effectively certain parts of the technology tree where if you haven't met a certain research threshold, it's effectively a gate, you can't proceed further. And combined with what we talked about earlier, where you have research that can be variable or fixed and blind or see all but together, it can make for a lot of interesting chases for more bonuses and good research locations. So we're going through the different weapon techs now. There are multiple different trees here. These are the torpedoes, and you see it goes from the lowest tech level on the left-hand side, and then the paths lead you to the right-hand side to the higher tech level techs. Right now, we're looking through some of the kinetic weapons. We've got our long-range cannons, our railguns, our point defense weapons, and a lot of these weapon trees will have lighter weapons, heavier weapons, medium weapons, point defense weapons. Here we're into ground combat. We're looking at techs that unlock different types of troops, like robotic troops or clone troops, and techs that boost the effectiveness of our existing troops. This one gives us special operations forces. This one gives us some bonuses to shipboarding, along with a Star Marine barracks that we can actually put on our ships and stations to improve their defense. Logistics and troop recovery rate boosts. Here we've got our improved reactors, which give us better energy, more efficiency. Our shield tree, and now we've got our warp drives, where they start off with the basic skip drive, moving on up to the Garax, and it splits out into some drives that are faster, some that are quicker to spin up, some that are more efficient in terms of their use of fuel. Now we've got our engines, and again, as you get a little bit higher up, you start having some more choices as far as what type of efficiency you want, and some of these are border techs like that, those vector engines, which are a mix of your thrusters that help with your turn rate and your engines that help with your speed. Now we're getting down into starfighters, and again, those are split up into interceptors, strike fighters, and bombers. Here are your various armor technologies, and again, the higher up you go, the more options typically you have. And now we're getting into the construction techs. Now, this gets pretty involved here because we have a lot of different ship roles now, both on the military and civilian side, and they're split up throughout the construction tree in terms of getting access to them and getting access to higher level, larger ship hulls that give you more space and more component bays to work with as you advance up the tree. The early techs generally are very quick to get, and the farther you go in, the more research it requires to unlock these, which is fairly typical in a lot of tech trees. We've got our mining engines that speed up our mining, energy collectors. We got our different sensors and scanners, both short range, long range, penetrating ones. We've got our different forms of exploration. You've got survey teams that can give you more in-depth exploration and scanners that can give you quicker exploration. And you've got colonization technologies. Some of them are just, there was a terraforming facility, and then you've got different colonization specializations that boost certain world types. There are far more world types in Distant Worlds 2 than there were in Distant Worlds 1. Now we got our transport systems, nothing terribly exciting, but you'll need them if you want to expand. Fuel cells and cargo bays to extend your range and how much you can store. More efficient docking, crew systems, commerce systems, medical and recreation systems, and a lot of these get way more interesting as you go further down the tree and they start unlocking facilities to let you specialize in some of those areas and build them on your planets, like the coordinated control systems. And finally, we have diplomatic research. So here we have, for example, we've unlocked the research the language for Ekdarians, and we've got some understanding of the culture of the Hakkonish. And these are things that once you meet some of these independent and major factions, where if you choose to invest some of your research in improving your understanding of their language, their history, their culture, it'll also give you bonuses in diplomacy.
Well, it's really impressive how deep the research tree is and how diplomacy plays such an important role within the game. And another thing that thrills me is the fact that we can actually build and design our own ships. So can we go into more detail about this feature?
Absolutely. So we decided this time to go ahead and show you how we would build a new ship from the ground up here. So we're going to do a frigate this time. So I'm going here to my overall list of designs, and I'm saying I want to add a new design. And this brings up all my existing hulls that I've researched. So I've got different types of escorts that I'm initially looking through: normal escort, heavy escort. Here's our base frigate hull, patrol escorts, and each of these have different specializations. And we decided to just do a frigate. So on the top left, I've got my list of all the components that I have researched. On the bottom left are all the component bays that I have on the ship. On the top right there, I'm piping in the name of this new design. And I'm also got a list of what are called defects and recommendations. Defects are things without which, unless they're fixed, I can't actually save the design. Recommendations are just that. So first thing, we're putting on a fission reactor. Now we actually have some energy in the ship. And I'm looking through the defects to see what else I need in order to make the ship work. So I'm adding on a couple of fuel cells to give it fuel so it can actually go somewhere. I'm giving it a hyperdrive, and I'm going up, and as I'm looking through these, you'll also see some of the details of these components as I select them and hover over them. So the command center is effectively the bridge of the ship. That's where my officers are going to be. I'm also going to have to add on some crew systems which are effectively life support and quarters for the crew that are actually going to be running the ship. And I think we're going to switch over next to the engine category. And you'll see in the center that these color-coded circles on the ship match up with the color coding of the design bays on the left. And you can place things by putting them in the design bays, or for the external components, you can actually click on where on the ship you want them to. So for the engines, I'm looking at the Proton engines, but I'm also looking at the directional thrusters. The directional thrusters give me more turn rate and a little bit of extra evasion. The engines give me straight out much more speed. So I'm playing around with that. And one of the things to be aware of with engine design is engine symmetry is maintained. So as we're putting these things in here, it's adjusting their positions a bit to maintain engine symmetry. So we figured that out. Now I think we're going to move on to taking a look at weapons. And on the right-hand side, you can always see a summary also of some of the resulting characteristics of our ship based on what we've put in so far. So I'm looking through the different weapon types. We've got some Epsilon torpedoes, which are great for longer range. We've got railguns, great kinetic weapons for short range. We're probably going to want a point defense weapon. And I'm looking at a comparison now. I've selected one component, I'm hovering over another, so I can see this direct comparison of which areas each component is better or worse in compared to the other. And that's going to help me decide what I want to put on here. And the summaries on the right will also help inform that. And so I'm placing these, and as I'm placing them, I'm also, in this case, for the most part, placing them on the actual ship, because that'll show me where that weapon's going to be. And the little gray sphere or hemisphere around the weapon slot also shows me the arc that that weapon's going to be able to fire in. And so I'm putting a point defense weapon right there up on the top in the center. I've put an Epsilon torpedo and a railgun also in the two front slots. And I'm now just deciding what to do on the two back slots. And I realized I've run out of energy. So I placed another fission reactor to make sure I would keep up with the energy needs. The top bar on the right-hand side is the energy outside of hyperspace, and the bottom bar is the energy when you're in hyperspace, because hyperdrive uses a lot. So obviously we've got abundant energy now that we've added the second reactor, and now I'm placing those extra railguns in the back and realizing that I'm now a little short on crew, so I'm putting another crew system in my internal slots. So now all that's working. I've got all my weapons placed, all my engines placed. I've got enough crew and energy to take care of them all. So the next step is going to be to add an energy collector to cover my static energy needs. In other words, when I'm not moving, that can help my ship avoid using fuel. And then we're going to look at defenses. So there are often two layers of defense that you primarily want to focus on for the defense slots. One is armor, one is shields. You don't have to have both, but it's often useful to have both because some weapons are better against armor, some are better against shields. In this case, as the Mortland, we're putting in some heavy armor, and we're putting a deflection field generator on, which is an early type of shield technology. You also have a third layer of defense, really, which is your evasion or countermeasures. And that's something that we're not focusing on a lot in this hull, but that's another part. And we've just picked a sensor to put in our one sensor slot, a proximity sensor, to make sure that if we're not in an area where we already have a station, say, that can effectively reveal what's around us, if we're operating in a system where there isn't anything else, that we can still see what's around us. And then finally, realizing we had some extra room, we swapped in a medium railgun in place of a small one, which brought us to pretty much our maximum space. And now we're going down the right-hand side, looking at all the information there to make sure that the ship is roughly performing how we would expect, that it has the capabilities we would expect. And there's a lot of information that's summarized here that a player can go through. And at the very bottom, those are all the resources that are going to be required to build the ship based on both the hull and the components we chose to put into it. So you also have control of what resources the ship effectively uses by what components you choose to put in it. And so you see the little red and blue bars, those are telling us about our firepower and our point defense. The chart above that tells us about our speed and our maneuverability, and then there's our energy usage. Taking a quick look through the ship now, make sure we're happy with how it looks. So you can see where we place the weapons. You can actually see the meshes outside the ship for the torpedo and the point defense and the railgun weapons in each place where we actually put those. If we hadn't put weapon there, you wouldn't see that mesh. You can also see the sensor mesh. You can also see the shield generator mesh on top, that sort of glowing circle thing. So that's all also based on what we actually added. The engines, nacelles in the back were based on the engines we actually added. And the last part of this is we're going to save this particular design. And once we save it, we're just going to queue one up to build so we can see how it's built. All right, so we're saving it. Now we see it shows up in our design list of available designs. And now we just go out, and this is the easiest, quickest way to build. We'll go to our build order queue. We'll pick this new design from our frigate list, select one, pay the price, and boom. And that'll queue it up in whatever shipyard has the most capability right now to build it. Or you can go manually by shipyard and say, I want to build it here. That's fine too.
Cool, that's truly amazing. And I know that you prepared another little sneak peek for us. What is it about?
Yeah, so this is our last little peek. We've been working through the backstory here, and one of the nice things is that you're not the first ones to have gone out into the galaxy. So this is an example of some of the things you can find here. We've discovered an ancient abandoned starbase, and we've decided to investigate it. And I just wanted to show also a little bit of the automation here. We got a message that told us about this. We went to see what it was. There it is. It's not in very good shape. Our exploration ship has found it, and since we said we want to investigate it, that will automatically queue an available construction ship to go over there. So we're looking at our construction ships now, and we can indeed see one that says it's going to go build that station, which means it's going to go there. It's going to start repairing what it can of it and salvaging information from it. And since it's selected, we can see the yellow movement path is showing us where that construction ship is and that it's heading over to repair that station. And who knows what we'll find as that station is repaired, what other things that might reveal. And then this is our first space creature that we're revealing. This is the Gravilex. I won't say anything about their backstory, but they're kind of nasty. And it's sitting here around a star. They tend to feed on stars. And it's in a cloud of debris from ships that it has destroyed. So that'll be something I think that we'll show a bit more of in the future, the Gravilex.
Okay, and that Gravilex looks dangerous. So before closing, let me ask you one last thing. How proud are you of this game? I mean, such a deep, complex, and detailed 4X space strategy game developed by a small team like Codeforce. I mean, it took a while, but the game looks just amazing.
Distant Worlds is a very special project to me. Elliot and I have poured our hearts into this, and it has been just an incredible focus for both of us for years now to bring the Distant Worlds community a better and greater Distant Worlds, and we're getting close. The beta testers have given us an incredible amount of good feedback. We're very happy with the beta testing involvement we've gotten, and we're very proud of what we've accomplished so far. We have a ways still to go, but we'll keep giving you more sneak peeks as time goes on, and hopefully soon we'll be able to talk about a date.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. Thank you for joining us. And that's it for today, but a lot of things are on the way in the coming days. So again, make sure you follow our product page. Now it's Starship Trooper time. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be back soon. Cheers, guys.